I want you to understand, and this is with me as chairman, let alone one of you. And now if I can be 5 months wrong, and we're probably going to wind up being 12 months wrong, where would you be? Because you can call me a lot of things, but I'm not experienced. I know. And even experienced people like myself that do in deals, and this isn't an acquisition, we want to be acquired. We want to be bought out. It's a huge, huge market. Worldwide, it's a $235 billion, the fire retardant, fire resistant market, it's $235 billion worldwide. It's a huge market. You don't have to get much of market share to make a ton of money. But as Lucinda pointed out earlier, the last thing I thought would drop out is our accountants. And we've had a number of things like that happen. We're still on the right track, but stuff happens. And now John?
Well, briefly, playing off of what Dan said, 3 things that we've gotten out of this. Number 1, if things can go wrong, they will. Number 2, don't assume anything that anybody tells you. And number 3, it's going to take 3 times as long and cost 5 times as much. 3 or 4 of the pitfalls we have fallen into, the first one is that we assumed certain things about our product. You assume if you have a patent, it's a good product. This isn't to say that this product isn't good. Find out what your patent doesn't cover. Don't look and find out what your patent does cover. Because that's what everybody else is doing. When we talk to patent attorneys and they tell us that find out who else has something close to yours. If you don't have to, don't patent it. Because then they know what you have. There is no patent for Coca-Cola. There's a patent for double dish stuffed crust pizza. Patent doesn't mean anything to an extent. And we thought that we had that covered because we thought that the inventor of the process was on our side. And he was for, 6 months, 7 months? And then he died. My brother called me 2 o'clock in the morning and said, the worst possible thing just happened to us. I said, Dan just died. He said, second. I said, Dr. White died. He said, yep. The very next day, we had people calling us and asking us if Dr. White was still coming through New York. And we said, if you want him to, he sure can. But at that point, we had all of our interests, and we had so much relying on Dr. White, we never, ever, ever assumed he would die. So now we're in the research and development phase. Second, we put a business plan together that is 150% the opposite of what we're doing now. Not because we want it that way, it's because the industry is telling us it's that way. We'd love to stick with our original business plan. Another thing...
I'd like to stick with the original business plan. Forget you, me!
Another thing on a more positive note to an extent, since we have done this, and since we've been a part of this, and we're not destitute, so it seems as if you are being somewhat positive. When Dan brings other things to us and asks us to look them over, and the people that we are associated with, every single person we ask for help does it, and doesn't ask for anything in return. People that I used to call on my old business, I'll go to them. It's more important that you don't lose your confidence in them than what they would ask for. To an extent, being in play like that, and you can use that in the business now. 60 to 70% of the information we have in our business now, we get for free. We have one gentleman who literally works for us for free because he sees the potential in this. All you have to do is ask. It's so simple. It's flattery, and they'll do it. Getting back to our product and what we've done, we've found that the market dictates where our product is. We have some great features in our product, and we have some features that aren't as great. You have to be able to discern what portion of that market those things come into play. If you have, on a scale of 1 to 5, and my brother Jim put this scale together and faxed it to the gentleman who is literally 20 or 30 years in the textile industry, and showed where we think our product fits in the grid of products on the market today. He said it. He says, I now use it as a reference to fax to everybody else. Oh, I'm sorry. He says, I now use that as a grid for everybody else for the simple fact that you've realized you're really good in one area and you're not in the other, and sometimes that won't offset. Sometimes it's just not that important. So it's important in that respect to investigate, 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 and once you're done, do it again. Don't assume anything. Investigate what you're looking into over and over and over. Guess what? You know why? Because it doesn't hurt, and you're not wasting your time, and you end up not wasting certain people's money. A couple other things that we said that we thought we would never have to worry about when we started this business. Obviously, one of them we say was the technology. Number 2, we assumed that this product was so good, assumed again, someone would buy us out. We just had to be out there. I will say for myself, and I can be corrected, don't ever run a company like all you want to do is have it sold right away. That's Dan's job. That's not my job, and we did that.
Important. This is important.
We should have run right off the bat this company as if it's going to fund my children's educations. This is the greatest thing in the world. The last thing I want to do is sell this, and we did not do that originally. And you can do that with the same thought in mind as a joint venture partner. We went looking for joint ventures, saying, with literally everything we had in our hands, saying, hey, look at how great this is. Nobody had to investigate us and said, hey, you guys go do it. When you're successful, come talk to us. We didn't do that. We've second-guessed ourselves quite a few times, which we probably shouldn't have, but we have.
Let me stop a minute. See, my theory of management is I allow people to make a lot of mistakes, as long as they're not going to take the project down the toilet. Jim and John are infinitely better managers, executives, high-performance people today after me letting them get bloodied. I saw this coming last spring. If I had changed the direction of the ship then, we may have cut our time scale down by 6 months. But when we sell this project, or actually go into manufacturing, and I ask Jim and John to do something else with me, they won't have learned shit. Many of you in this room won't allow your people to make mistakes. Jim and John, I knew this deal could not be cash flow positive in 12 months. I used to tease Jim about being in the Textile Hall of Fame in 12 months. Right? And I knew that couldn't happen. Or if it did happen, I would be part of one of the great success stories on the planet. And I've already been part of a few of them. And now they are better suited. When I have other deals, I have Jim look at them. And now when these pie in the sky people come to him, that they're going to be, they're going to have immortality in a certain industry. I mean, Jim, even though he's only 30, looks at these guys a lot differently than he would have 2 years ago. And that's how you build a successful team that's able to go on and do acquisition after acquisition after acquisition. It's critically important. At Great Western Resources, I allow people to make million-dollar mistakes. You would die knowing you were allowing one of your people to make a million-dollar mistake. You're nervous, and it's not even your $1 million. I can look at you. I only came in when they were going to take out, they might get involved in something, take out the company. Then I came out of retirement from Scotland and resurrected it. It's critically important to understand that. And Rick Scott allows all his regional managers to make decisions up to $1 million without coming back to the home office. And I'm told he's got a couple hundred regional managers. Now, what if all 200 made a $1 million mistake? The same day, on a Friday where they couldn't get it refinanced, he'd be out of business. I don't think Rick loses much sleep over that. It's important. Now, when I asked Jim originally, and he's passed the baton to his younger brother, to talk about this, I said I wanted them to understand, because one, we have fire resource partners in the room. I wanted them to understand that everything that you do, even at my level, you miscalculate. And the way oftentimes happens on an acquisition, you'll start down this road and you'll wind up doing it this way. And that's another reason I don't like those business plans, because we actually feel that it's incumbent upon us to follow them when it's not. Sorry, John.
I mean, along the lines, I don't think there's much else to talk about. I think the only thing I would say, and I believe this, that during this entire transactional period that we've been doing this, other than the decision to go into business with my brother and go into business with Dan, I would change every single decision I've made up till then and since. And some of them were right, and I'd still change them. So as much as I think to a point that we've gotten down on ourselves, it's such a great learning experience, and you can see it happen again, and you know what you're doing that time. And you know, even from this step forward, the right things to do. But some of the things have changed to an extent where I wouldn't even remotely do the same thing again. And that was 3 months ago.
Okay. Here, take it over there. Give it to her. Now, I do this, and I wanted the Mosbys to tell about how this thing is just meandered all over the place, because most of the transactions, for example, Giselle's interested in child health care, child day nurseries. I keep calling it child health care, like they're going to be sick in the nurseries. Okay. She has no idea, I don't have any idea, but I know the way she is looking at the industry isn't going to happen that way. I don't know why. It's going to change. I know the Taylors are looking at acquisitions in what I call legalized gambling. They call the leisure business in Great Britain. I don't know how. What happens, though, when you get off on the acquisition kick, you actually start to think that you understand how to buy companies and which way it's going to go, and you don't. The KKR guys had no intention of paying $20 billion plus for Nabisco. You can bet your sweet butt on that. Rick Scott, when he decided to get into the healthcare business 7.5 years ago and be a dominant factor, had no idea that he was going to be testifying in front of Congress fighting with Hillary Clinton. And that's what throws you guys off. It's because your supposition is this, it winds up being this, so therefore you think it's wrong, and you stop. And that separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls. Because we know that, as Ross Perot said, in any acquisition program, success is on the razor's edge of failure. And when you're in business with somebody like me, as your chairman, which is not big on positive strokes, and that I like testing your metal by yanking your chain. When I was hired at Bear Stearns, Cy Lewis, God rest his soul, one of the founding partners, on their regional newsletter, they used to come out every quarter, on the back page, it said, Dan Pena, I don't think it was called California State University back in the middle 70s, obvious, the weakest link in the chain. High-performance people do not take the day-to-day failures of an acquisition program to heart because they understand it's a numbers game. John and Jim now understand And we're on the right track, but we took at least 5 wrong tracks, maybe more than 5. We're on the right track today, and I could have maybe got them on the right track last March, but they wouldn't have learned anything. Some of my deals here that I'm partners with, in my judgment, not all of us are on exactly the right track. Huh? Don't get nervous, JC. Nobody wants me to look at him right now. So I got a lot of partners in the audience. Yeah. But I've allowed them to make those mistakes. Otherwise, you don't learn. And you will never put together an acquisition team to grow externally unless you allow your acquisition team to make mistakes. Now, one of the things you'll expect, and the reason why you use the Price Waterhouses or the Coopers and Lybrand or the Arthur Andersons, is because their mistakes are going to be minimal. And you use the O'Melveny and Myers, their mistakes are going to be minimal. One of the other reasons I use the big firms, so when something goes wrong, I got somebody to sue. And when something goes wrong, the other side is suing somebody other than Dan Pena. They're suing Coopers and Lybrand, O'Melveny and Myers, and me. Because when a deal goes sour, you want somebody that's got malpractice insurance. The little, mom and pop accounting firm or, a single proprietor lawyer, what are you going to sue him for? He's got no money even if he screws something up. When somebody screws something up for me, I want to be able to sue him. That's another good reason for using the big firms. They've got deep pockets. And recently, the big 6 firms are making a lot of mistakes because they're having to pay out huge amounts of money. Okay, we're going to do another role play. This time, let's see, we did to get the guy on the board. And I'm going to tell you the words. This is you want somebody to come on as a joint venture partner. You want an instant track record, okay? And this is not a board member. This is somebody in business. You have to make it palatable to them where their risk is minimal, if not non-existent. One of the methods that I used to use is a special limited partner. A special limited partner, ladies and gentlemen, has virtually no risk. They put up no money normally, or an infinitesimal amount of money vis-a-vis their ownership in the deal. And yet, you can use their name as a partner. For those of you that have heard me speak before, they know that my first special limited partners were Leggett. They were a several billion-dollar strong company. And I got the benefit of the recognition that went along with being partners with Leggett. Nobody ever remembers. Even the Leggett guys don't remember that they were my special limited partners. You may be able to interest somebody, and another technique, JC, that I had forgotten about. You may be able to interest the Netscape guy being a special limited partner, where he's got no liability, he's got no exposure. All he does is make money if the deal benefits. I'm sorry, I can't believe I forgot to tell you that because I thought of it. Yeah. But now, if the founder of Netscape becomes our special limited partner, what's his name? Andreessen. Yeah, Andreessen, the founder of Netscape's our partner. Now, what did that sound like? Steve Jobs, let's say he's a special limited. Yeah, Steve Jobs. Yeah, the same Jobs that founded Apple. He's our partner. I mean, you're walking in deep cotton then. And it's another way, if you can't get somebody to come on a board, that you utilize. And there's virtually no reason, if they like the deal, for somebody not to be a special limited partner. They have all upside and no downside. Where's the mic?
So how do you completely eliminate their downside, even if they're not putting any money in? When you invoke their name, isn't there some liability for them at some point?
No, I mean, because the paperwork that you're going to show people as special limited partner, by definition, the way the partnership agreement's drawn up, they got no liability. Yeah, they have laws, court cases and stuff. Now, I want a piece of the equity, and I'm not worried about getting sued. But I mean, not everybody doesn't worry about getting sued like I do. A special limited partner and getting 5 to 20% of the profits we make.
Theirs exactly?
Pardon?
What do you use of theirs exactly?
Their name.
Financial statement?
No. Well, I mean, it depends. I used to use Leget's financial statements because showing Leget's financial statements didn't mean they were guaranteeing the deal. And I mean, but the implication is, well, Leget's in this deal, same as when I'm on a chairman of a company. And as I told you earlier, I can't remember the last time I showed anybody my financials. Larry.
What you're saying then is you show them like the partnership, that agreement that you have a partnership or a partnership agreement, but you don't tell them exactly.
What you would do is, for example, the deal that JC and I are doing, we make it a partnership. We make our special limited partner Steve Jobs or this other guy Andreessen, or both. That's exactly right.
But it's not unless they have the brains to ask you exactly what a special limited partner means that you is that.
Nobody asked because you're not lying by saying Steve Jobs and Andreessen are our partners. Yeah, wait.
First of all, I think these guys would be smart enough to ask that question about what a special limited partner is. Jobs and Andreessen?
No, I'm talking the people you're selling.
Oh, well, we don't want them to ask, right?
Yeah, then they don't. Well, I mean,
But if they don't ask, they don't know. If they
what's
ask,
I mean?
Then we tell them.
Yeah, then you tell them they're a special limited partner, and then normally it just stops there. They don't say, well, let me see the partnership agreement. I've never been asked for the partnership agreement. I give it to them. You know, an O'Melveny partnership agreement is 7 million pages. Well, where does it cover the special limited? I don't know. I've never read the son of a bitch myself. And that's the truth.
But Dan, I think what you were saying back there is that you were wondering what they get, right? But they don't get a piece of your company because they're not on the board of directors. They're a partner, so they get a piece of the profit when you start making money. I mean, that's the difference.
And they've got no downside. Why would they want to do that? They have no equity.
No, they're not a board member.
Correct. Or and you can give them part of the upside. When I sell the company, I'll give you 5% of what we sell the company for, or 5% of the whatever is over X amount. They got no downside.
When you've gone to, say, for your traditional...
Talk louder, remember?
When you've gone for your traditional banking, let's say you're getting your 70% or your 100% of the cash.
Correct.
And they say, oh, you're in partnership with Steve Jobs, and let's say you're still at Apple, and then you say, right, and you show them their accounts. Would they may not ask you to use that to as a to underwrite it, or?
No, they can ask anything. You know, how many, you got a virgin daughter someplace? I mean, whenever they ask me for my financials, I tell the bankers, "Do you have a virgin daughter?" That's my way of saying piss off. I mean, they can ask for anything. I mean, just because one of these guys, and because we're taping this, I mean, this is by illustration purposes only. It's not that they're our special limited partner yet. But it is a way to hook in high-powered people that are concerned about the liability of being on a board. I've only had that happen one time in recent years, that the guy was so concerned, and we made him a special advisor to some crap. I forget what the hell we call him. But and if they believe in your deal and they think that they can make a contribution, normally the only reason these big hitters don't want to get involved is the liability. If there's any reason at all, it's the liability. I'm not worried about the liability because, I'd rather fight than switch. I mean, suing me, you better come prepared. You better bring your lunch. It's going to be an all-day deal. But not everybody's that way. But the special limited partner aspect gets over that. I hate win-win because there are no win-wins hardly, but it's as close to a win-win deal as you can get. I can't believe this is the first time I remember saying it in a while. Because again, most of this stuff is just, I've been doing it so long, it's just like brushing my teeth.
I'll have to send another email.
That's correct. Send another email. Another breakthrough. I love that phony word. Anyway, okay, any more questions on that? Okay, I was going to say we were going to do another, well, I told you what to say. And you've got the script for the financial institutions. You've got the script, and basically you can use the same script, pulling out the financial institution part for your accountants. But basically, the interviewing process is you show me why you can help me better than ABC law firm or other big six. You're having them prove to you. I've already talked about how to set up a system to be paid as much as and as often as possible. How do you pay yourself first? You pay yourself out of every transaction. You pay yourself and your people, not just you. It's your directors, your employees, everybody, out of every transaction. And then when it comes time to sell all these companies that you've acquired, you don't have to squeeze the last penny out. When an IPO appropriate and when you should sell. We've talked about investigation of the alternative companies to work with, markets to go public. I'll spend a couple minutes on that. Which is right for you? Concerns, consideration, negotiation points, creating excitement and demand. Which is right for you? Any public market that will take your miserable company public is right for you. Whether it's Toronto, Salt Lake City, London, Brussels, Amsterdam. People say, why did you go public on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, Dan? Because they give me money. That's why. No other reason. Why did I go to London? Because the constraints to take a company public were much reduced in those days than in the U.S. And at that time, there was no appetite for what I was trying to take public. I would have gone to Istanbul, if they've got a stock market there, formerly called Constantinople. You go where the money is, like Willie Sutton, the great bank robber of the 30s. Elliot Ness, the famous treasury agent that arrested him for the third or fourth time. Willie, why do you keep robbing the banks? He says, Elliot, it's where the money is. That's where you go. You go where the money is. Oh, this is Giselle's deal. Firstly, I would like to thank you for Caligula. That's kind of an inside joke, which I received last week. I haven't watched it, as our video machine is being repaired at the moment due to overuse. Other pornographic films, they've worn out the machine, I guess. Here are the figures that I managed to get from Day Nursery. This is a current deal right now that she is looking at, and we are going to walk it through. I'm going to ask you to answer the question, see if we've learned anything. If they haven't learned, if they don't give you, I'll tell you the right answers. I'm not going to let you go off with bad information here. My main gain is to acquire existing day nurseries and to squat, to start them from scratch. Oh. I want to have at least 10 day nurseries in 1 year. There is a great shortage of day nurseries in the country, and there aren't many for sale, if any at all. Debbie, the owner of this day nursery, has been offered a plot of land with a lease for, is that 71,800 pounds? Would it be worth it, considering the figures below? We're going to show the figures below. By the way, how many were at the Castle Seminar in January? They will forever be the Caligula group. One of the things that we do is we watch a movie, Rudy, normally the first night, which is a movie about a guy that wanted to play football at Notre Dame. It's the life story of Rudy Rudiker, who's a guy I happen to know. And it's a motivational, tear-jerk movie and about never giving up, and he finally got to play football at Notre Dame. Now this group watched Caligula one of the nights. I forget which night it was, second or third night. And I've had a lot of groups that were at the seminar, and I've had a lot of people look at our film library. I'd even forgotten Caligula was in our library. And this group picked out Caligula. So forevermore, they will be called the Caligula group. Now Caligula is Caesar. He was a Caesar. and he was basically a whoremonger, a sodomizer, both men and women, didn't make much difference to him, and it was a very, very graphic film. Now, this was also the youngest group that we've ever had at the seminar. The old man in the sea was him at 42. The youngest was Lucinda at 25. Giselle, you're 27, right? Or were 27 then. And we had 29, 32, 38, and Bruce. This was a young group. Young groups have different ideas about what to think about, I guess. Not I guess, I know. So this is forever be the Caligula group. So that's one. Oh, and I didn't sleep for 3 days. I started talking to Jeff, her husband, about you don't need sleep. And so I wound up staying up 3 days solid with no sleep. And didn't look any worse for wear after 3 days with no sleep. I now believe that, for the most part, sleep is a function of what we've been conditioned to. And I had never done that before, other than when I was in the military, where they didn't let me sleep. But it was an interesting group, and a lot of bright people and a lot of energy. We had a lot of energy in that group. That's why the reference, and I sent her the movie Caligula. I had Valerie go find me one, and it's not that easy to buy this film, I might add, in Great Britain. But we were able to find it. Okay, how would I go about paying Debbie? You said basic plus profit and equity. 15% equity in each day nursery, it's a question. But how much would I start paying her now, whilst we are still looking for deals and before I have my own day nursery? How do I pay her when I'm not earning anything yet? Would I only start paying her when I have my first day nursery? Or do I need to get working capital now? She's not interested in selling part of the fledglings to me at this stage. Wants to see what happens with my dream first of all. 10 day nurseries in my first year. She might consider it in a year's time, but will allow me to use fledglings as a track record. And fledglings is another day nursery? Okay. And how would her salary go up according to how many day nurseries I have? Her husband also wants to get involved. He wants to look for deals. Shouldn't I be doing that? How could most certainly help me? He knows what to look for, example, room sizes, rules, regulations, etc. At this stage, I can't afford to pay him a salary as well as I should, salary. Maybe I could do a package deal for 2 of them working as a team. Thank you for your help, blah, 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 blah. This is my new fax number. Now, these kinds of questions are the kinds of questions, how do I pay the guy when I have no money, etc., etc. So we're going to walk through this, and I'm going to ask some of the brains we have collectively, and then I'll give you the right answer if we don't come up with it. Jim Mosby gave me this book, and it's Merchants of Debt, and it's the KKR guys, and it's got a class picture of them. This is after the Nabisco debacle. These guys look pretty happy to me. This is after, not debacle, it hadn't gone sour on them yet. And when Jim reminded me of a story I really already knew, when they first came up with their formula for doing leveraged buyouts, everybody in Wall Street basically laughed at them and said that this wouldn't work. It is now the model of how everybody does leveraged buyouts. Pardon? This book is by George Anders. And, pardon? What's that? The ISBN number is 0465 045235. Okay. When you start buying companies with no equity, everybody's going to tell you can't do it. None of your money, I mean. You've got equity. It's somebody else's equity. So, I mean, don't let them tell you that. They told the KKR guys they couldn't do that either. And right now, they also tell you can't raise money blind pool. Bruce reminded me that the KKR guys are raising a $2 billion blind pool fund right now. Blind pool means no specific use for the proceeds. I've been doing blind pools a long time, and they told me I couldn't do them either. It's the most funnest kind of money is blind pool money. Okay. Any questions before we start looking at this? Actually, Giselle already thought of a better deal than she's got written down here. She came up to me, which, see, now this proves a good point. When she wrote me the letter, she thought that this is, the way it was. Man plans, God laughs. On her own or with the help of somebody else, or I don't know, she's already figured out a better way than this way. And this should be how the process works. That's why I don't like business plans. Now, if we had given this to a bank, it would be set in concrete. You try to deviate from this once you give this to a bank, it is the Bible. It is the Gutenberg Bible. It's important to understand that. That's why you want it to be a moving target. You want your deal to be an amorphous, just kind of rolling along. It's hard to get a hold of Mercury, isn't it? It's hard to get a hold of facts from me in a deal. I mean, it's a movable feast. It's a lot harder to hit a moving target. Some of the mistakes that John Mosby alluded to were because they were a standstill target. It was easy for the other side to whack them. And now Johnny and Jim are bobbing and weaving. Bobbing and weaving. And you still get hit even when you bob and weave. But you don't get hit as much. Now Giselle lists the numbers. These are, what a name, fledglings. Does fledglings mean the same thing as I think it means? A fledgling? The ducks? Is that what it is? What a crappy name. Anyway. For a place to take care of kids? Okay, Fledgling's Day Nursery, 37 place. That means there's 37 beds? Kids. Oh. Oh, they're not sick. Anyway, I keep going back to health care. Okay, this is on Howard Road. Okay, so the fees received, in other words, they collect 175,000 pounds a year in revenue. People pay to put the kids there, right? Okay. Food costs 8,500 pounds. Wages are 81,000 pounds, right? Okay, so it's 89,000 pounds less from 175,000, or 85,880 pounds, more or less is, we'll call it cash flow. It's really not cash flow. And they've got the expenses down there, less expenses of 23,800 pounds. What is bank charges? That's interest or just bank charges? Okay, bank charges, 1,600 pounds. Loan interest. They've got debt. Correct? Okay, so the interest on the loan is 6,700. So they're paying 10% probably. So that means they've got 65 or 70,000 pounds in debt, roughly speaking. Why don't we just buy the note back from the bank? Why piss around? Why even go through the exercise? We just go to the bank, buy the note. What? Now, a sharp businessman like yourself, Larry, would probably buy it at a massive discount. But somebody like Giselle, who's just a beginner, will probably pay maybe a slight premium. Because all we want is the note. We're not trying to make money off the note. We want the deal. We want to grab them where it hurts. But sharp guys like Frank and yourself and Rick and maybe Danny and the Glaswegian over there would try to buy it at a massive discount. And the bank would tell you to piss off. But then you don't really want to do the deal. You just want to pretend, well, I tried to buy the note at an 85% discount and I couldn't buy it. You want the note. You pay a premium. Now, if she was on her knees in bankruptcy or approaching bankruptcy, that's a different story. But if they're making money here, she's making 53,000 pounds a year, or the net profit is net profit's 53,000 pounds a year. She's not going bankrupt. If you're making 53,000 on 175, I know why you like the business now. This is a good thing. How much is that as a percentage? What's 53 divided by 175? 30? This is not a bad thing. This is good. Okay. But I would just go to the bank and buy the note? Who does she bank with? Okay, well, you can find out. I would cut to the chase, and I would just go to the bank. But we're going to assume okay, Jeff?
If you want to, I mean, we've spoken to them about being part of the dream team, about helping us grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, aren't you going to upset them somewhat by going and doing that?
The question is, aren't we going to upset them somewhat by going and buying the note back from the bank? Yes, that they are going to be slightly upset with us, actually. Or is it actually slightly upset? Yeah, they are. You try all the other ways, and then if you really want it, then you go to the bank. Now let me tell you something else. Sometimes you can go to the bank and you don't even have to actually follow through. It knocks a sense of reality into their head when you go to the bank. First of all, they don't think it's possible. Bless you. Then they'll call up their bank manager. Oh, yes, we sell notes all the time. Click. Well, I guess I better take... Then they may sit down and talk to you then. Then they'll call their solicitor, their lawyer, and he'll say, oh, yeah, the bank can do that. And banks do. Banks do. During the FDIC cleanup in this country and all that stuff, there was a lot of that. I know guys that made fortunes just going around buying notes. You have a new partner, Jerry. My name's Jim Jones. This is your note right here. I'm demanding it right now. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I didn't know you wanted to be my partner that seriously. You should have told me. So we're not going to buy the note. So based on 30, let's just say that this is a for real number. 32,000. It is a for real number. Okay. Okay, 32,000. How much will we pay for this company? Class? 3 to 6 times after tax. So that means we're paying 100,000 pounds roughly to 97,000 pounds. Oh, excuse me, that problem's 56. 150,000. I divided the wrong number. Is 53 divided by 175 30%? Rough, okay. So we're roughly paying 3 times 153 or 160,000 pounds. That's 3 times. Oh, excuse me. You're right. So what's the tax bracket? What is in the UK? 25% off of that. 53 is what? 13. Call it 40,000 pounds. 40,000 pounds. So we're going to pay 3, which would be 120,000 pounds, to 240,000 pounds for this company. Now, one of the keys to acquiring companies, you want to structure deals as much as possible so you're buying them out of their cash flow. You want to structure deals as much as possible so you're buying them out of their cash flow. So, to the extent that we're paying 120 to 240,000 pounds, I would probably make an offer that looks like I'll give you 200,000 pounds paid over 7 years with LIBOR plus 1 for interest. LIBOR is like our prime rate. I would probably say, I'll give you 200,000 pounds. You give them at the upper end of the continuum. Instead of the 240, you give them 200. You offer 200. And say, I'll pay over 5 years. And I'll give you, what's LIBOR rate right now? Okay, I'll give you 7.5% interest on your money. And I'll give you 200,000 pounds. Now, if you're going to give them 200,000 pounds over 5 years, that's 40,000 pounds a year, right? Coincidentally, what's your after-tax profit? So whose money are you using to buy them? This is with no improvements. Their own. Their own. You're welcome. Where's the mic? We have a question up here. Is it on? Yeah. Jerry.
Does it make a difference whether they're debt-free or whether they have a large debt on that?
Well, in this example I just gave, it's debt. I'm assuming they've already got 6,700 in debt, so that means they've got debt of 65 or 70,000 pounds. But see, they've already subtracted that debt out of there. So it doesn't really matter. You can structure the deal. Since you're paying them over 5 years, I don't feel bad about assuming the debt. So I'm really paying 200 plus 60, 70,000 pounds. I'm really paying 270 because I'm assuming their debt. You follow that? Yeah, no, I'm buying them out of their own cash flow. I'm not borrowing any money. I'm not doing anything. You follow that? All I'm doing is assuming their debt, and I'm paying them over 5 years.
You have to make sure that the profit they're showing, they're servicing their debt, not just paying the interest on it, though, wouldn't you?
Well, no, it doesn't matter. No, he said you have to make sure that they're servicing their debt, not just paying interest. No. What do I care? I'm buying it with their money. Who gives a damn? It's their money. It's not yours. You got nothing in the deal. What does it matter? How many of you know how to play Monopoly? Now, when the Monopoly money, when you play with it, I mean, you feel, maybe the Scots and the Armenians feel like it's real, so they're tight with it. But it's play money, isn't it? When you buy somebody out of their own cash flow, it's Monopoly money. I'll structure deals like this all day long until I'm 100 years old. The amateurs vis-a-vis, where's that book? The guys like this, they paid $22 billion because it wasn't their money. Now they overbid. So you don't care. So you're assuming their debt, whether they're, I would assume that's only interest, that's not principal payments. So you're paying the 200, and you're going to have to pay the 70 back. You'll pay 270. I'll buy companies all day long if I can buy them out of your cash flow. Come up with no money, don't need any financial angels, don't need any institutions, need nobody. I'll buy everybody's company in this room. If the company folds up, you walk away. It's better than non-recourse. This is J. Abraham kind of stuff. This is freer than free. This is triple risk free. Don't you understand, ladies and gentlemen, you got no downside? Wait a minute. I got the Forrest Gump look out here. Now come on. Stay with me, people. It's late, but stay with me. It's none of your money. If the deal 3 years from now, Giselle runs off with a gypsy, leaves Jeff flat on his vegetarian ass. Okay? With her copy of Caligula under her arm. Okay. And she's got the good scenes highlighted somehow. JC can show you how to highlight the good scenes with master dubs or, yeah, okay. Window dubs. It doesn't matter. She can leave with a gypsy and leave this thing. She's got no liability. The assumption of the debt. Okay? But many times, you can keep the debt with, you're going to have to stay on the note. I'm buying your company, you're going to stay on the note until I pay it off. I mean, I'm getting a headache. I'm getting a headache. Now see, and I know I'm yelling at you people, but I mean, this stuff is so rudimentary to me. It's hard for me to not understand how come everybody doesn't understand it. But it's obvious it's not that understandable because otherwise all you guys would be buying businesses this way. Where's the mic? Oh, this is now, Rick is an educated man. He is a chartered accountant, so he is going to give this the benefit of his wisdom.
Actually, it's more of a question. Now, what happens if they say to you, which is typical the case is, we want 100 down, or 100,000, or 100 pounds down. We want half down.
Sure. And where's your virgin daughter? It's a numbers game. You go to the next guy or gal. I mean, Lucinda, do we care what the other side wants? No. Because, I mean, I don't know how many nurseries and this is slightly more complicated, and I don't mean to be cavalier, because they've asked these people or this couple or this lady or whatever to be on their dream team. They said no or yes? They're very keen. That means they want to do it, okay? So, I mean, you take the high road. We're not going to go buy their note. But, I mean, this is how I'd start structuring the deal to make the purchase out of their cash flow. Okay, let's say they wanted 100 down. They wanted, which is half the money. Okay? Now, there's a couple ways to handle this. One, it clearly has the cash flow to service 100,000 pounds in debt. You go to a bank, and you finance it through traditional forms of financing. 50% finance on a deal is not a difficult deal. This room could even get a business finance 50%. And it's a naive group. So you can get traditional financing for the first 100,000 or 50% of the purchase price. Or you can go in and get equity partners. Get somebody like Larry deals with. Give them a piece of the upside. The name of the game is to use as little as humanly possible of your own money. Now listen. My cost basis and my stock is 0.0000082 cents a share. That's the grand total of money I put in that company. The grand total. And I try to do it for nothing, but I had to put up $820. The conditioning that you've gotten used to is that you got to put up your own money. You don't have to. Whenever I put up my own money, like in the manufacturing business, I wind up closing it down. It's just safer. Next time Jim, John, next time I get this crazy notion I want to put my own money, just say, Dan, there's a bus right out in front that can run over the top of your head. There's a question there. Mike, back there. Oh, first.
Yeah,
Mr.
is what
Faldo.
you paid them based on their net earnings staying the same?
Well, we're going to get to that. We got projections. But no. I base it on historical. You can either do a trailing 1 year or trailing 3 years, historical data. This is why audited financials are critically important. And this is why most times I want to do a audited, what the hell's that? Acquisition audit, God. Acquisition audit. They pay for it? No. Now, don't be a mooch bum. I mean, Jesus. God, I mean, you can tell he used to be a Legrand devotee. The first acquisition audit I ever did saved me $500,000. And the acquisition audit team was headed up by one Charles Soliday, and it cost me about $12,000 or $15,000. It saved me $500,000. And on top of that, I met my future partner, and he turned out to be my best friend. Unfortunately, he's gone now. He passed away 9 years ago, and at age 40. No, you pay for the acquisition audit. Now, there was another question. Will you pass the mic back?
Well, this is a question and maybe more of a statement to an extent also. I think one of the thought patterns that needs to be addressed here is the fact that each of these little pieces, to an extent like you're going over now, need to come together to make the full puzzle. And what I mean by that is, as you're saying here, use other people's money. And then the question is, what if they want half up or 100,000 pounds up? Other than just that, you've possibly created that dream team that's in there also. You've asked them to possibly stay on still. You've created all these contingencies where you don't have to give 100 up front.
See, I presuppose that you've gone through the dream team deal. You've got Arthur Anderson. You've got the NatWest as your bank. That you've got whatever legal firm. You've got all this in place. They're going to be more likely to self-finance the deal. They're going to be more likely. Oh, John is absolutely correct. I mean, if you walk in off the street, now this is not an industry that you can make 50 offers a week at. But if you walk in off the street, Dave Reeker, from nowhere, I mean, you have no credibility. Why would, I mean, you just won't. It gets back to the dream team. You are separating yourself away from the masses. You just are. Okay, now let's go to the projections. Profit before taxes projected at 122,000 pounds, correct? No? Where's the mic?
Dan, this is for another.
This is another one.
This is for the other home that they had already negotiated with the builder and developer and whatever
Okay,
to put out.
I got my stories mixed up. Okay, this is not projected. This is another deal.
These are projected earnings on the proposed
Okay.
new days.
These aren't actual. These are projected.
Yeah.
Okay, what? Okay, so what are the actual on this? There are no actual because it hasn't been done yet.
No, this hasn't been done yet.
Okay. Now this is the deal that doesn't exist. This is the deal that they're going to pay for the lease in the ground, the 71,000 pounds. Okay. Now, one of the things that Giselle pointed out to me at the break was that the current properties are owned by a pension fund, correct? And the people that want to do this deal want a 125-year lease. Now, see, this concept in America, we own things in fee here. Leasing property for 125 years is not a system that we understand here, but in Europe, especially in Great Britain, there's a lot of that. And the pension fund only wants to go out 50 years. And the pension fund is the one that makes the rules because they own the property. So the question that Giselle asked me is, wouldn't it be better for us just to circumvent these other guys, go directly to the pension fund, give them a 50-year lease, since we're going to sell it up on the greater fool theory anyway? And the answer is yes. You go around the other guys. They want this 125-year lease deal because they're buying it forever. We're buying it for 3 to 7 years. We don't mind a 50-year lease because our idea is to sell it up. And so I would go around and cut the deal with the people directly on a 50-year lease and move forward without the partnership of the other side. See, because remember, when your agenda is on an acquisition you're going to sell, that's why you can always refinance. I agree to mezzanine or interim financing for a year. All I need is it for a year. If I can't raise the money or refinance it in a year, I deserve to lose the deal. You want the deal so you can call it yours. If we're going to sell in 3 to 5 years, it doesn't matter if we've got a 50-year lease, because when we sell, they're going to renegotiate the lease anyway. Your financial parameters and your business decision-making process changes dramatically when you know you're going to sell. Now, you don't tell them that you're going to sell. Some of you in this room would say, oh, yeah, I can agree to that because I'm going to sell in 3 years. Duh! And then the deal changes. You love this because you wanted to be in the daycare centers all your life. This is something you dreamt about. It's like I told somebody, one of our textile meetings, I don't know if it was a Milliken, is that the one? I said, no, I've always wanted to be in the textile business. All my life I wanted to be in the textile business. Because you want them to, that's how you want to buy it. Knowing that you're going to sell as fast as humanly possible. Everything in my portfolio that's outside my irrevocable trust is for sale. Everything. Some of you, I hope, that are my partners, I sell quicker than others. Having been in business with you for a while. Of course, we'll address a new venture after we sell this one. Of course we will. And don't let the door hit you on the way out. Yeah. Some of you, in candor, in the spirit of candor, make being partners more difficult than others. And I'm being kind when I say that. One of the biggest hemorrhoids I have as a partner isn't here. But then that's probably why he's not here. Yeah. I mean, it changes the financial parameters dramatically as you make offers. See, I could buy your company out of cash flow for 7 years, knowing that I'm going to sell it in 2 or 3. Because you can always refinance. There's all kinds of parameters. What happens is when you go on, you try to buy a company, make an acquisition, do a deal, is you're setting up financial parameters as if they're going to last the rest of your life. That's why you're so damn careful. If I screw up buying Bruce's company, I'm going to be stuck with it the rest of my natural-born days. And I don't buy anything that way. I assume that I'm going to sell it on the greater fool theory. I'm going to sell it up or take it public. And by the way, there's nothing immoral or illegal or unethical to say that we're going to sell it on the greater fool theory. You're not cheating the people. You're not doing anything like that. It's an absolute arm's length legitimate transaction. But it's a fact of life that people will pay more. And the reason why I like consolidating industries is because I may give this company $1 million and this company $1 million and these two companies $1 million, but together I'll probably give you $6 million, as opposed to the 4 that I could buy it individually. And that's the greater fool theory. The sum of the parts. What is that? Yeah, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Correct. And it just is. Now let's go back. Whoops. Oh, wait a minute here, backwards. Okay. Now one of the questions was, how do I pay? Let's say we're going back here and we're buying her, and she's going to be part of it, and I've got no money to pay her, which is the case for a lot of you. You go, no money to pay. Okay. You have to make their pay somehow contingent on increased profitability. You have to make their pay contingent on somehow them growing the business. Okay, you can't pay them what you don't have. You don't mind paying them, for example, 30,000 pounds a year if they increase profit 50,000 pounds. Because you don't want to be there to run it on a day-to-day basis. Remember, all these acquisitions we're making aren't being run by us. If they're being run by us, we can only make a handful of acquisitions. And we want to make a lot of acquisitions. We have to make a lot of acquisitions. One of the reasons we have to make a lot of acquisitions is because every acquisition we're going to make isn't going to work out. Important point. Every acquisition we're going to make isn't going to work out. Because somebody like Sean will have slimed the numbers on us. They're not all going to work out. But guess what? Nobody has ever asked me which ones worked out, which ones didn't. Nobody. Yet it's the first thing that I hear you people talk about. And it's the least important thing. If we make 20 acquisitions, 3 to 5 won't work out. Or at best, they'll be marginal. Because even though we are going in with open eyes and we're like grown-ups, the numbers, something's going to change. Something's going to change. That's why you got to make a lot of them. And institutions and investors like to fund big pools because it gives them risk diversification, end quote. Makes them feel good. And if you make them feel good, you'll get more money out of them. Dave.
So apparent, the more that you can bundle together, or the bigger the deal, if it's an individual deal, the easier it is to get the money. Sitting there talking to Coopers and Lybrand, I mean, it became obvious that that was definitely the case.
I've heard, I've said many times, it's easier to raise $5 million than it is 50,000. It just is.
These big players don't want to put a little bit of money
Correct.
in either.
Correct. And that's why you ask for a lot more than you think you're going to need. And some people have said, well, Dan, isn't that intellectually dishonest? You're asking for more than you think you're going to need. The operative word is think. Which is another word for guess. You don't know how much you need. If I don't know how much I need, then how the hell do you know how much you need? So I always ask for a lot. My rule of thumb is 3 times longer and 3 to 5 times more expensive. The Mosbys are testing that rule of thumb. Jim knew I was going to come back. I could just see the look on his faces. I know we are not going to get by without Dan mentioning us. Maybe if you look down, I wouldn't have noticed the reflection on your glasses. Yeah. 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 Wait a minute. The microphone.
Previous example for the day nurseries, we're saying that we're going to pay them 200,000, but by looking at it, what's the incentive actually to the vendor to sell if they were going to make that anyway?
Because for some reason, well, I mean, okay.
Looking at the figures that are on that that are on the board, that over 5 years, paying them 40,000 a year, they would have got that anyway. So my question is, what's the incentive? Why would you sell something that you know you're going to get anyway?
Okay. And some won't. But it's a numbers game. You go to somebody that will. It's that simple. Not everybody likes the offers that Lucinda sends out. In fact, very few people. And if they knew her like I do, they wouldn't like her either, let alone the offers. So, but I mean, it's a numbers game. You're right. They might not. Yeah. Back there.
Also, and I know because I did it myself, and I sold my practice a lot cheaper than I should have, because sometimes you want to get out and do other things. That's why. People are willing, they want to get out. A lot of times they don't want to be involved with the business anymore.
But see, you presuppose, because of your preconditioning, that they think like you. You think your common sense dictates to you that you've got common experiences, and you don't. You keep yourself from doing some of these things because you judge other people by your own standards. What's important to you? There's a lot of funky people out there. Would you pass the mic back to one of them? Yeah. No.
Isn't part of it the fact that you're going to get it anyway, but you're not having to work 50 hours a week to get it?
Correct.
I mean, that's the whole. I think that's what the whole idea would be: is your lifestyle. If you're accustomed to now a 40,000 pound a year lifestyle, you're going to get it, but you don't have to go to work in the morning. I mean,
that's part of it.
That sounds.
Wait. Okay, that's part of it. No. You may ask them to stay on, but you know, a lot of these deals are bought.
She'll be getting a percentage of all the day nurseries that I have. She won't only be involved in that home.
Yeah, but I mean, you're presupposing that matters to them. You don't know unless you ask. Okay, you don't know. I know. Because I've structured some crazy deals in my time. The guys from Leggett that were my friends, the last time that I bought their refinery from them, they paid me $7 million to take it off their hands. They paid me. My high-priced financial advisors, doofuses that they were, had structured a deal that I was going to pay $13 million to take it off their hands. because that's the kind of deal the cash flow represented, et cetera, et cetera. But I knew that they had a problem and they had to get rid of it. See, you structure these ideas based on common sense, and there is no common sense. Conventional wisdom is almost always wrong. That's why some of these offers that ought to be, they ought to send back to Lucinda some, 4-letter words answering her, we get acceptance. And I haven't even looked. I don't even know how we structure an offer. I'm not sure what the damn formula is. I don't want to know. All I know is I've seen one. I don't need to see any more. See, I'm telling you guys, they said that their LBO system wouldn't work. It is now the standard. They laughed at them. It is now the standard. I'm telling you how to acquire companies with no cash of your own. If you want, these guys are obviously smarter than this group, but you might learn something. It might also confuse you. On second thought, don't read it. Yeah. Yeah, save me your money for my book. Comes out late this year. Because mine won't confuse you. Not even this group, it wouldn't confuse. Sprinkle with a few 4-letter words, not too many, a few. But Jim has captured my style of talking very well, and a couple of you in the room have read the transcript. And but yeah, that'll confuse you. For the MBAs, how many MBAs do we have in the audience? God. Okay, for you 4 or 5, you'll understand it, but you don't need to. So I'm just telling you, you don't need to read it. But it's, but these guys are the creme de la creme of LBOs. These are not schleppers here. The KKR guys, are the top of the heap. But you don't need to be at the top of the heap to do what you need to do. Most likely, in your careers, and I wish that you would cross swords with those guys, because that means you will have gotten very big. But most likely, not many of you will cross swords with those guys. And for you at this stage of your career, you're fortunate that you won't be crossing swords with them, because they'll have your kids, your liver, and everything else that you hold dearly when they get done with you. Hold dearly. That was supposed to be a joke. Anyway, God. Okay, for the women, it's not what you hold dearly, but maybe you've held it dearly a time or two. Okay. Now, let's see. Are there any other questions on here for Giselle's deal? Her husband wants to get involved. The answer is yes, he should be. You don't need to have him wait a year. If you had a dream team in place and had a bunch of powerful people on it, he'd want to get on board now, because if he waits a year, you're giving equity to the founding directors now, not a year from now when you don't need them. That's the incentive to get them on board now. One of the things that I've been working with JC is the negative takeaway from these directors. We know that you're busy. Fine. If you can't make a decision, please let us know immediately so we can move on to our next choice. Dream team members always like to think that they were your first choice. In this particular case, he was. You say you're going to move on to your next choice. You'll get an answer one way or the other. They won't, screw about. It's either yes or no. High performance people that you want on the dream team will understand that time commitment, that pressure to make a decision now. Now you notice I didn't load us 1, 2, 3 any numbers on this. That's how simple, when you look at these deals, it should be. That's how simple. Now, we took a long time explaining it here because I got a slow group. But I can look at this and figure out what to offer in about 90 seconds. Where's the mic?